Welcome to the Real Turf Techs podcast for the technician that wants to get real. Follow along as we talk to industry professionals and address hot topics that we all face. Along the way, we'll learn tips and tricks. I'm your host, Trent Manning. Let's have some fun. This episode of Real Turf Techs on Golf Course Industries Superintendent Radio Network is presented by Foley Company, a strong supporter of equipment technicians and golf course maintenance departments everywhere. Foley Company offers a proven solution for above and below the turf for turf professionals everywhere. To learn more about Foley Company's line of reel grinders, bed knife grinders, and the Air 2 G2 family of products, or to find a distributor, visit www.foleyco.com. Foley, ready for play. Welcome to the Real Turf Techs podcast, episode 141. Today we're talking to David Gummo, CTEM equipment manager at Sands Point Golf Club in Sandpoint, New York. Sands Point Golf Club is a private 18-hole golf and ski club. David has one-ish guys that helps him in the shop. He's primarily Toro equipment. Let's talk to David. Welcome, David, to the Real Turf Techs podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
I appreciate your being here. And tell us how you got into the turf industry.
It started off with me basically wanting to get out of school. I went
Just
to
like many
vocational
young kids, right? Many young kids. I was the same way.
Pretty much. I went to vocational high school, Dauphin County Technical School in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And they have like 20 plus shops there, but I was in outdoor power equipment, lawnmowers, tractors, ATVs, motorcycles, things like that. And I started in that shop when I was 14. And my senior year, a couple months before my senior year, before graduation, my shop teacher came up to me and said, "Hey, I know a mechanic at a golf course. Would you be interested in doing a co-op job?" And at that school, at that time, it was 1 week academic, 1 week shop class. And if you got a co-op job, you didn't have to show up to school on shop week. So
Nice.
I was like, you mean I don't have to show up to school and I get to make money? I'm in.
Yeah, no brainer.
So he introduced me to that golf course. It was Dolphin Highlands Golf Course. And the old mechanic there, Lynn Eby, he's still there. He's like 78 years old or something like that now.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So they did my interview there. And oh God, I just lost it. Hey, what?
No, it's all good, man. Yeah, it's all good.
So, and what I really wanted to do was work on motorcycles and four-wheelers. And we had called around to different shops and stuff. And I also felt like getting some secondary education. And all the dealers in the area basically said going to like Motorcycle Mechanics Institute wouldn't help you out at all. And at the time, Penn State had just started the TAE program, the Turf and Ag Equipment Service Technicians program.
Okay.
And I got into the inaugural class with that one.
Oh, nice.
There was 10 of us, and I think 8 of us graduated.
Oh, cool.
We're still longer around.
Right. Yeah.
They never got enough students to fully sustain it. And and it was a professor's pet project. And when he retired, it went with him, unfortunately. So graduated there in 2004 with a certificate. I got my first mechanics job at a golf course at 19, head mechanic, the only mechanic. And I've been doing it ever since.
No, that's awesome. That's so cool. So how did you get to Long Island?
I was working at a golf course that was going belly up. It was owned by a lawyer who didn't understand golf and basically wanted to turn his golf course into a garden. When you're standing on number 3 tee and there's an arborvitae tall enough that you can't see the green, there might be a problem. He didn't understand that. So it was going belly up. I was laid off. There was different parts to it. They had a nursery across the valley and stuff. And that they had a mechanic over there, and they let me go to save money on the golf course side of things.
Mhm.
And at that point, I was 3 months into a layoff and very broke.
Yeah.
So I looked on TurfNet, started tossing resumes out there. And the superintendent up here, he's like, oh yeah, you can stay on the property for a few months until you get enough money for an apartment. And then, like, oh, there we go.
Okay.
Good
Cool.
job.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. That's awesome. Very good. What's your least favorite part of the job?
Yes. I'd have to say, I come from a lot of lower end courses where you're the mechanic, but you might also be out digging an irrigation hole, going a mower, you kind of floating around a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, it's the fact that I'm in the shop 100% of the time.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
There's times when I really do miss getting back out onto the course and doing more variety of stuff.
Yeah, no, I understand that. We're under renovation right now, and the company that's doing the renovation is Donic, and they have wheel trencher. It's come from the UK. It's like Shelton or something equipment. I've never heard of it before. But anyway, they're having issues. I mean, it's a brand new machine, but still, they're having issues with it. So I worked on that all day outside, and the weather is beautiful. It was like 65 degrees outside and sunny.
Oh,
And man, it was just so nice, getting out of the shop and doing something a little bit different.
as in my side business, I do a lot of side work and I go to different places, and I've been enjoying that because it gets me outside. I was working on a Takeuchi last week in 17-degree weather. It was less than pleasant.
Yeah, not fun. No.
And then there was another golf course I was working on, and it was another Takeuchi at TL10, and their shop ceiling wasn't high enough to put the cab up. So I worked on that thing outside every day in
That's not
below
fun.
freezing weather.
Yeah, not fun. Not fun. Yeah, because I mean the metal is the ambient temperature. Yeah, not fun.
Yeah.
What's your favorite tool?
Believe it or not, it's weird. I had this old 14.4 Snap-on Impact that I've had for almost 20 years.
Uh-huh.
I keep building the batteries, and when the motor died in it, I bought like 6 of them off AliExpress and resurrected the thing.
Nice.
So I have better impacts. I have a new Milwaukee and everything, but for no good reason, that's my favorite.
Yeah, I had one too.
From a more practical standpoint, probably my mind.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yep.
Because, everything starts and ends up here. So
that's right. No, very true. And you're the second guest that has said that. So I love it. That was awesome.
Yeah.
What do you do to relax or find your balance? Work on Takeuchi?
No. Those things are actually pretty miserable.
Yeah, okay. All right.
I just seem to happen to be the Takeuchi guy. I play video games.
Okay.
I'll sit down and play Hearts of Iron 4 or something like that.
Mhm.
Kind of takes my mind off of everything. The 3-year-old twins and things like that.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. I love them to death, but they're on the go all the time. So, for relaxing, just sit down and play Hearts of Iron 4. Something I can edge out to. Or at least occupy my mind enough to not think about everything I have to do.
Yeah, it's a good way to I lost the word. Yep. That's hell getting old, man. You got a train of thought and it just flies out the window sometimes.
All the time. You get the worst it is.
How about this? It's a good distraction from what's really happening around you. I think that's where I was going with that. To be continued. Maybe I'll remember. So my dad, he is 81, going on 82. And he told me, this was probably a year ago. He said, I walked out to the garage 2 weeks ago. I still ain't remembered why I walked out there. Luckily, I hadn't got that bad yet, but it's coming. It's coming. What's been one of your biggest challenges to date?
Personal or work?
Let's, I don't know, whatever you're comfortable talking about, but I guess it's more work related question. But if you want to talk about personal, I'm here for that too.
Probably the biggest challenge I had was, do I want to go with a piece of equipment or? Yeah, I'd say as far as piece of equipment goes, it was the first time I ever did an engine out of a Takeuchi. Our TL10 here has had 3 engines put in it so far.
Wow. How come?
First one, it was an early Tier 4. They bolted the DPF filter to the cast aluminum intake manifold to the engine. And the second one, the wiring harness rubbed through and caused the number 4 injector to wipe the cylinder.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, and I pulled the engine out, did a full rebuild, and I also replaced the wiring harness in it, which just looks like a big bowl of spaghetti. So that was probably the first one. I could say one now I have a New Holland LS 170 skid steer in the shop that I'm basically completely refurbishing, but I'm not finding that as much of a challenge as I did that first Takeuchi. Then career-wise, it was basically deciding to make the move to Long Island. That was the hard one.
Oh, I bet.
Personal-wise, it was overcoming depression and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
I used to have issues with depression. I used to be over 400 pounds. So that was a big challenge with that one. But
well, I appreciate you being willing to talk about that because I do think it's something that a lot of us deal with, a lot. And, it needs to be said. And it's okay if you are depressed. There is resources. There's a way to get help. Do you want to tell us about your story a little bit? And it's totally, I don't
I just obligated. Don't know. I just don't know where to really go with that.
How did you overcome your depression?
Well, the first thing I did was move to Long Island. It really overcame it when I got introduced to a personal trainer, and he got me to start exercising and working out. And, I started dropping a bit of weight, and I felt better about myself, and dropped a bit more weight, and felt really good about myself. And, I spent most of my adult life alone. And I started meeting girls and ended up meeting my wife, and,
Okay, awesome.
And now I don't even have time for it because I don't have time to even worry about being depressed. So, the worst part about depression is it's like self-reinforcing. You're depressed, and then that makes you do something like eat more, and then you look at yourself in the mirror, then you feel more depressed, and you're like, well, I don't have a good reason to be depressed. So you get depressed about that, and then you get depressed, and it makes you think nobody cares. And it's just a weird self-reinforcing cycle that can be difficult to break. I broke it, and then when we had our kids, things changed so much. The family dynamic and everything, and we don't have family up here. We don't have help. I ended up becoming the single income source, which caused me to work a lot, but I still work an obscene amount. So came back a bit, gained a bit more weight, and then, recently I got a bariatric surgery to drop the weight again. And I'm doing a lot better.
All right.
Got myself in a really good place right now.
No, that's good. I appreciate you being willing to share that. And I met with my therapist yesterday, and filled her full of an hour of me rambling on and on about my life and what all's going on. And I mean, it's really beneficial. So I would say to any of the listeners, if you're thinking about it, if you're on the fence, just do it. Therapy can really help and really work. But I will say, with finding a therapist, it might take you a couple. It might take you a few. You know, you got to find somebody that kind of meshes with your personality and all those kind of things. At least that's my personal experience. I think it was number 4, but before I found someone I was comfortable talking to.
Yeah, and there's no shame in it. We make it out.
No.
You know, so much in society may say out to be a shameful thing, but there's no shame in it. And my therapist ended up being a personal trainer, and I ended up doing like strongman competitions and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, one of the things is it spikes your insulin, which spikes your serotonin levels, which gives you this like feeling of well-being and euphoria and stuff. So it's easy to overeat, and then it's self-reinforcing on that one as well.
Mm-hmm.
But going to the gym and working out, that spikes your dopamine levels, and it gives you largely the same effect without eating.
Right. I got you.
So,
No, yeah, it makes total sense. Well, I'm glad you're on the other side of that, and I hope that you continue. And if you ever need somebody to talk to, I think you got my number. Yeah, you got my number. I'm here, and that's for anybody listening too. You know, if you needed a vent about something or whatever. And again, I'm not a therapist, but I'm happy to talk to anybody, especially if they're in need. Now, what's one of the strangest things you've seen at work?
I was thinking about this a lot. I have seen a lot of strange stuff over the years. We can make a whole podcast of
okay.
strange stuff I've seen. This particular golf course, I haven't seen that much strange stuff. We had a jogger that would jog up the road at like 4:30 in the morning or something like that, make a deuce on one of our greens.
Okay.
No toilet paper.
That's strange.
That's very strange, and he did it for a long time before they figured out what was going on.
Oh, yeah.
So that was very strange. Our mountain course, we had a very wet year, and there was very little forage. We had the game commission come in and trap bears off the course. They caught like 6 bears in a month. And they were digging holes in the greens, breaking flag poles. And one of the crew member, a bear ran by the shop. The crew member saw it, and he wanted to keep looking at the bear, so he followed it into the woods. And I'm like, what are you doing? And there was a time we had a member tased. It's actually a really sad story. He was an older guy in like dementia or something, and he was off his meds. No. And unfortunately, we had to call the cops because he was getting violent. And he was also stripped down to his whitey tighties. And he picked up a flag and was threatening the cops, and well, they went the taser.
Dang.
There was a bachelor party there, and one guys got on a lot of drugs, and the next morning he was in his underwear in that creek and had to get the cops up on know, I worked at a place doing shopping work, and their one line was still manual irrigation, so they had to do night watering. And I watched a kid, he was drunk off his seat. He was driving a cart, went up the side of a tee box, fell out the side of the cart, rolled into the above ground gas tank.
Man.
You know it's not going to explode, but all the movies and stuff, you're just like, oh my God.
That's crazy.
Man, there was another one of the earlier ones. We're standing at the shop where we could see the main parking lot, and in the middle of the day, we were watching this van rock back and forth as a couple was digging it on it.
Oh boy. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
You've seen some strange stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. That is good. Why don't you mentioned the person that you worked with at your first course? Do you have a mentor in the industry?
Yeah. His name was Lynn Eby. Well, is Lynn Eby. He's still working. He's 78 years old. Or thereabouts.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Old guy. Anybody else?
Him and the first superintendent, Bill Wall. Even now, if I'm planning on making a career decision or something, still call Bill Wall and see what his thoughts are about it.
Yeah.
He's the guy that basically told me to go for Long Island.
Okay.
And then, you know, he's a really good old school mechanic. And he had the plus side. He looks like Santa Claus.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
He's got rosy cheeks, some big white long beard, curly hair, all white. You know,
Yeah. That definitely helps for sure.
you know, love the old man.
That's awesome.
You know, and the first day I met him, I went in for the interview. And when I was 15, I'd worked part-time at a auto body shop. Well, I worked the summer at an auto body shop with one of my cousins, and he knew the owner, Joe Gravino. Joe Gravino was a Vietnam vet that got shot up in Vietnam.
Oh, wow.
So you can kind of imagine his demeanor. So I went into the interview, and then he's, well, do you ever work anywhere else? I told him Joe Gravino. He looked at me. Did you get fired? No.
That's a good story.
Yeah.
Yeah, a really good story. Yeah, if you made it through him, you're worth hiring. That's good stuff. What would be your dream job or opportunity?
I'd love to have my own fabrication shop and just make things.
It's so much fun, isn't it?
It's a lot of fun.
Yes.
I'd love to make like one-off pieces of turf equipment and stuff like that. You know, or just fabricate pines or just, you know. Those.
Yeah, anything. Do you have some fabrication equipment?
I've got a Bridgeport milling machine. I have a 14 lathe. I'm not the Bridgeport myself. I have the 14-inch lathe the golf course bought. I have a 9-inch South Bend lathe that was made in 1927.
Okay. Yeah.
That was the first one I bought. Just for like $700 off of an older gentleman who was looking to downsize. Okay. Which he got it from an older gentleman that was looking to downsize. But it was in really good condition. And I bought it for myself just to play around with. I wanted something to play around with. Well, find the right thing, kids. When I had time, there was just so much time of doing weird things. And I actually did enough work at the golf course bought me a 14-inch.
Oh, nice. Okay. Right. What kind's a 14?
It's a Precision Matthews lathe. It's a Chinese lathe.
Yeah.
It's still big enough up. I mean, a significant upgrade again compared to like a 1927 South Bend, but where the max RPM's like 690. It has a half a horsepower electric motor on it that pulls like 12 amps.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. That's funny.
You know.
I'm asking too because I got a South Bend 13-inch. And it's an antique, and I need to look up the way you date it, the date code or whatever, and find out what year it is. I mean, it's pretty old. I don't think it's not 1927, but at least 60s.
Does it still have the belts?
Yes. Yeah.
It has the internal belts and the pedestal and all that?
Yes.
Or is it external?
Yeah. No, it's internal.
Okay. Mine is external. Like, there's actually like a line shaft that goes above the lathe with belts that come down, and then there's a belt
seen that.
And then there's the motors underneath the deck, and there's a big long belt that goes up to the line shaft.
Nice.
It's cool. I like it.
Yeah.
It has a really nice old school feel to it. The maximum RPM on that lathe is like 690. It is slow.
That's crazy.
Well, it was still back in the day when a lot of people were still running carbon steel tooling, not even high-speed steel. High-speed steel got invented in like 1900.
Okay.
But in the 1920s, a lot of guys are still running carbon, just base carbon steel. And like 690 is a good speed for that.
Okay.
You know,
that's the way they figured that out. Yeah. That's awesome. That's good stuff. Yeah, I'll send you some pictures of my antique, and you send me some pictures of your antique, and we can.
I also had I also had an antique Van Norman number 1/2 milling machine. It's hard to date code those, but they were built around 1917 to the early 1920s. So it's a cool old piece too. Yeah, I don't do hardly anything on it anymore because max spindle speed on that's like 300, which is really brutally slow. But the patent date on that is actually before the invention of high-speed steel. So,
oh wow, okay, very cool. It's good stuff. Do you have a technician you would like to work with for a day?
Actually, I'd like to work with the guy I apprenticed under. I'd like to work with him for a day.
Okay. Yeah. That'd be
Yeah.
cool.
Miss Lynn, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
You know,
Especially,
he was so fun to work with and stuff.
looks like Santa Claus. Why not?
Like,
Yeah.
he actually has a Santa Claus suit and does do Santa Claus at Christmas time. So,
Oh, nice. Okay.
Even
Yeah.
that much of a joke. I'd like to work with him again for a day. Outside the industry, the person I'd love to spend the day with, Adam Savage from the Mythbusters.
Okay. Yeah.
I'd love to work with him for a day.
Yeah. He does some cool stuff, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Doesn't he have his
He does a
own
lot of
YouTube
really
channel? And
He has his own YouTube channel. I went to a Comic-Con and sat through one of the panels they had with him and just listening to him. He's a very inspiring person to listen to.
awesome. Very cool.
You know, he's a great motivational speaker without trying to be a motivational speaker.
No, that's cool. Super cool. Well, what do you know now you wish you'd known on day one when you started at the golf course at 14?
Well, I started at 17. 14
Oh, at 17. Okay. Yeah. You got the
17.
program.
14 was in shop.
Right. Okay.
Do you include the butterfly effect or not include the butterfly effect? Like if you change one little thing in the past, it changes everything in the future.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't. It's your call. It's your call on that.
If changing things, if you knew something back then that would change where I'm at now, I wouldn't change a thing. Because that could mean that I might not meet my wife, might not be on Long Island, might not have my kids. So in that regard, I wouldn't want to change a thing.
Right. Yeah. Totally understand that.
If you could tell me that I'd have all of that, or if you knew more as far as like how to run a business and things like that. And I'd say be better at organization. You know, I spent a lot of years as a single mechanic in a shop. When you know where everything that, you know, it's all organized in your head,
Yep.
you know, there's less incentive for making it organized than other people. And now I'm getting busier. I'm older. I'm getting busier. And now I'm having to learn some organization skills that, you know, I previously didn't have to have.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's understandable for sure.
You know?
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's different for everybody. But I mean, most of the mechanics I know, it doesn't come natural to us to be super organized. Some of us, maybe, but not majority, I don't think.
Yeah, and I mean, when you can take something apart, throw 1,000 pieces in a box, and then stick it back together 3 weeks later. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm with
You
you.
can pretty much, you know, keep things well organized in your head to some point. And if you're a single guy in a shop, a lot of times you're really busy. You know, the last thing that's on your mind is going through all your bins and organizing stuff because, hey, I got a mower to grind. I have this to do. I have that to do. I need this done.
Yes.
You know, and then there's the places I've worked. I'm 40 hours a week and they don't want me to run over it. So,
Right. Yep. Only so much time in the day.
you know, but, you know, that's something I've largely corrected over the years.
Mm-hmm.
A bit of effort to do so.
And when it's so easy to collect all kind of stuff, you know, like extra parts and all that kind of stuff. It's just a constant battle.
About once a year, I go through what I call aggressive inventory reduction. It just goes into the modern arts masterpiece. Right. You know,
Yep.
I have a better term for that, but I'm going to keep
No, that's all good. Yep.
stuff.
Keep it PG.
Yes. So I do some, I've learned over the years I had to do some aggressive inventory reduction. Like I'll have something on the shelf that's been there for like 5 years and I'm like, do I really need this?
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, it is for me anyway, especially brand new stuff. And I try to give it away and nobody wants to take it. And
One of the things I found that actually really helps is limiting the amount of horizontal surfaces you have in the shop because they're just a collection point for everything.
yes.
If you can set it down there, it will be.
Yeah. So I had that example today and
I mean, it blows my mind. So we have an equipment trailer because I got the two courses. We move equipment back and forth, but really it's like a car hauler. But to haul our tractor with the wide rear turf tires, I have to take the fenders off. And it's 2 bolts, so they're easy removable. They're, aluminum diamond plate fenders. And so anyway, my system actually takes the fenders off, and we set them next to the shop outside, next to the metal building. And it was not 30 minutes later, there is 3 towels laying on the fenders. And I'm saying, where did these come from? Who put these towels here? And it's like, I know you got kids, I got kids, but it's like, cleaning up after your kids. Like, why?
Yeah, I'll, get busy, and, it's a constant fight against clutter and stuff like that. And then you come into the shop and, like, there's random things like, why is this here?
Yeah, I know. It drives me crazy.
Where'd this come from? Why'd they leave it here? Yeah. I got enough of my own stuff to clean up.
Yeah, I'll find stuff in our toolbox, and I got 2 guys helping me in the shop, and I'll ask both of them, where did this come from? I don't know, is the answer from both of them. So they didn't put it there. I didn't put it there. It's like, who put it there? And we don't have too many people, messing with our stuff. I don't get it. I don't know what happens. I really don't.
It's constant. Or like, someone will, like, I have my little club car with the air compressor and stuff on it here. It sits in the shop most of the time. And I'm worrying the guys will go to take a cart. Oh, someone left this in here. Then they just stick it in my cart. I'm like, why?
Yeah, I don't get it.
Get ready for tips and tricks.
Let's do some tips and tricks. What kind of tips and tricks you got?
Well, the first one is zip ties.
Okay.
These things.
Mm-hmm.
I have a pet peeve with zip ties. Everyone likes to cut them off with a pair of wire cutters, right?
Uh-huh. Okay. Yep.
Leaves a nice sharp edge.
Yes.
The amount
yes,
of
it
times
does.
I have been lacerated with those drives me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Pair of flush cutting wire cutters.
I love it, man. I love it.
No sharp edges.
I love it.
That's your biggest pet peeve. Oh, because how many of us have had to stick our hands down in somewhere just to realize you're getting cut by a zip tie? Then the only way to get it out is to pull back through that zip tie, and then you're bleeding from your arm. Right.
Yep.
And like a couple bucks from an electronics store, Home Depot or whatever. It just eases the deal.
Yeah. Right. I love it. That's a really good one. And it's
Another
also one of my pet peeves too.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
it drives
I know.
me absolutely crazy. And stuff comes from factory like that.
Oh
You
yeah,
don't
yeah.
get
Right.
Another one you can do, if you don't have the surface plate or a leveling plate. I actually saw this in like an old school reel mechanic or reel owner's manual. You can a machine screw in your height of cut adjust bar, and it'll triangulate off the edge, the back of the bed bar, and you can
Yes. Yeah. I don't remember if is it John Deere maybe? It's in one of their manuals of that being a way to do it.
I found it sounded like an old manual from like the 80s or 90s at one time when I saw that, and I was like, that makes sense. So if I feel like breaking out my leveling plate and I'm curious, I'll just do that real quick. And it's sitting on a granite surface plate.
Yeah, it
And
gets
it's
you in the
fast
ballpark.
because you just have it on your bench and you do it there, and you don't have to transfer the over to a surface plate. I do have a granite surface plate. I like to have all the things that I need just in case, I may need to use it that often, but if I do have a weird kind of quality of cut issue or something, I like to be able to suss that out.
Yeah, you gotta have all the tools in the toolbox.
Yeah, I have to have the tools.
Yeah, gotta have the tools. Can't do it
for the
without the
guys,
tools.
But for the guys that are at like a place and they don't have a granite surface plate or something like that, this will get you most of the way there. Better than nothing. Another tip I'd have: start your own business. Get an LLC.
Okay.
Have
All
a
right.
backup plan. always have a backup plan.
That's
Because-
advice.
Because if you have an LLC and you have your own little business, if something would ever happen, horse goes under, your superintendent gets let go, you get some guy in you can't stand, God forbid, it's very rare with equipment managers, but you're planning on going a different direction.
Yeah.
You know, having your own business, you can build people out. 20 years ago, 15 years ago, I could do side work at golf courses where they just walk up to the register, pull cash out of the register and hand it to me and just decide to leave a few receipts, right?
Yeah.
I can't find that anymore. You feel,
Right.
the best way to pick up side work for me now is, to have a legitimate business where I can just send someone an invoice.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. Yeah, and I mean, I guess that leads us into the next thing of, what is your side business? You got a couple side hustles here.
Yeah, so I do, my favorite one is I sell GPS sprayers.
Okay.
I'm a Northeastern distributor for Above Part Tech. I don't know if you heard of those guys. They're based out of Iowa.
Exciting MC.
Yeah.
Gummo boy. I hit the wrong button. We're expecting you.
Yeah, I hear.
Okay. All right.
I actually can't hear anything.
Yep, it was. It'll stop playing. Okay. Oh boy, sorry about that. All right, so you have, or you sell GPS sprayers, and
Yeah.
who's that come from?
Above Part Tech, they're based out of Iowa. They sell conversion kits for all the major brands and stuff. And then they also have 300-gallon skid sprayers, 500-gallon pull behind. Fresh, pretty. I was in Virginia like those things. I have a couple customers in Virginia.
Okay.
I have 3 of them down in Virginia that I service. And you get a lot of stuff done with a 500-gallon pull behind GPS sprayer.
Oh, I bet.
And then they also have their own self-propelled applicator. They have a River 300. So they're doing pretty good. They have probably close to 150 units nationwide now.
Okay.
And I have 13 units out there. So
Awesome.
between conversions, skids, and pull behind, and things like that.
So is it individual nozzle control?
Yep. It's individual nozzle control. You can get auto steer. We can do turn rate compensation, also with modulation on the booms, where it slows down the inside
nice.
and speeds up the outside.
Very cool stuff.
Yeah, it's really neat. With the PWM sprayers, you even go down to like 10-inch nozzle spacing.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Which, if I think you can do a whole dissertation on how these things work.
Yeah, no.
How much you want to go into this?
No, I mean, it's interesting for sure.
Yeah, so like on the PWMs, what it does is it alternates nozzles. Because when you look at the fan on a 20-inch nozzle spacing, the fan actually goes down with 110 degrees fan at like 20-inch nozzle height. It touches the center of the other nozzles around about there. So with a PWM sprayer, what it does is it alternates nozzles, one's on, one's off, one's on, one's off. And with ag application, that's really good. With turf application, it's very easy to see tiger striping with like a 20-inch nozzle spacing.
Okay.
Right? If conditions aren't right. Like you had to have up around 80% duty cycle and things like that. But with the 10-inch nozzle spacing, because, now you have nozzles in between and it's alternating them, pretty much just eliminates any issues with that. That's
Okay.
what we want with 10-inch nozzle spacing over 20-inch. The other issue is that the flow rates that turf usually sees are like 2 gallons per 1,000, right? It's hard to get nozzles that are PWM rated that'll do like those kinds of flow rates. You have to do like a 2.5 gallon per minute nozzle. And because with the PWM sprayer, let's say you want like a 75% duty cycle, right? And you're going to spray a 1.5 gallons per minute per nozzle. You would actually need like a 2 gallon per minute nozzle to get that 75% duty cycle.
Okay. I got you.
It's fun.
Yeah.
And there's There's tabulation charts for turf either, so you have to do all the math for it.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because all the ag tabulation charts stop at like 25 gallons per acre, 30 gallons per acre, which does us no good in the turf industry.
Yeah, it doesn't get close.
Yeah. So like, when you do 10-inch nozzle spacing, now let's say you need 2 gallons per minute per nozzle, or a nozzle capable of that. You can do 1 gallon per minute per nozzle. So there's a whole lot more nozzles available at that flow rate.
Okay.
And then at the individual nozzle control, what do you think? I'm kind of nerdy. You can always set how much of an overlap you want, right? Like minimize skip or minimize overlap. And usually what you get is you get little triangles of overlap because nobody in the turf industry wants skip. So with the 10-inch nozzle spacing, it actually tightens up that overlap even more.
Oh, okay. Yeah, makes sense to me. Yeah, why not? Yeah, I guess why? No, that's cool. Why do the big competitors, as far as I know, they don't offer a 10-inch nozzle spacing? Just curious, just throwing it out there.
It adds a bit of extra cost. There's a lot of extra cost with it. You know, you have double the turrets, double the nozzles, double the solenoids, double everything. If you're doing standard nozzle control, if you're not doing the PWM, there's less of a need for it. Unless you just want to get really tight. Years ago, I knew a superintendent did 10-inch nozzle spacing and dropped his boom height down to 10 inches so he wouldn't get much drift, right?
Okay, yeah.
So there's a usage scenario for that. But if you're just doing regular individual nozzle control, there's really a whole lot of need for it. If that's extra cost, extra complexity. Otherwise, Jam Deere could do it easier than Toro because they use those Pro individual nozzle controls, the little micro ball valves on the individual nozzle. Those would be easier to do than Toro because Toro does full-size valve bodies.
Yeah.
Or are they the KZ valves?
I don't
KZ
know.
Valves. Anyway, but they basically one valve per nozzle. So you have the 12 valves back there. Now if you went to 10-inch nozzle spacing with that, now you're looking at a really big nozzle, big.
Yeah.
And we run capstan solenoids on the turrets with little plungers in them.
Okay. All right.
The conversions are very easy and they're very non-invasive.
Okay. So, and when you're saying that, so you can outfit a Toro or a John Deere with that setup.
Right. Last month beginning of this month, I was down in Williamsburg and I did a John Deere HD 200. And it's basically just, disconnect the original control scheme, the rate controller, flow meter, and then like the boom valves, I turn them on and just disconnect them. And then the way Above Part Tech has their kit set up, I mount a box on the side of it, and then I just run all the wiring forward and then back.
Okay.
So,
yeah. Easy enough.
Yeah. That's also where the zip tie thing comes in handy because I go through probably 50 or 60 zip ties doing that.
Yeah. Yep. A lot of zip ties there.
Yeah, because you got to try and get your wiring harness and stuff looking neat and all that. But the next part with the conversions is we don't run the wiring harness through the frames, right? Almost everything is external. So if there is an issue or whatever, it's right there, We keep all the electronics and stuff on that box on the outside. So you're not having to dig through the frame and stuff.
Gotcha. Okay.
The thing.
No, cool.
And I got in with them because we bought a couple sprayers here from Above Part Tech. And you got units 2 and 3.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah.
So I worked with those guys a lot on that. And then after the kids came out, I was like, ooh, I need to do something for money.
There you go.
You want me to fill your frame for you?
Yeah. So are those RTK?
Yep. Sub-inch accuracy RTK. We have 3 different RTK sources we can use. TopCon, HP RTK, and the newest one is CTEM.
Okay. Haven't heard of them yet.
Yeah, they actually have a bigger network than HDRTK, and they're the lowest cost out of the three of them.
Okay.
Popcom's the most expensive.
Yeah.
So we usually try to keep everyone's subscription prices down and stuff. We try to go with the lower cost RTK service. It's still sub-inch accuracy, so.
Yeah, that's crazy. Crazy. That you can get that accurate with something like that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's pretty crazy. And there's other RTK sources. There's TerraStar, and then there's WAS Agnos. I believe it's, WAS Agnos. Problem with WAS is it's like 6 to 8 inch accuracy, which is still more accurate than most people can spray. But your boundaries wander around on you.
Okay. Yeah, I was talking to a guy the other day, and I don't know what they were using exactly, but yeah, he was talking about boundaries shifting. And,
if you run WAS Agnos, your boundaries can shift. TerraStar isn't as bad, but year on year, your boundaries could shift too. The other ones, you can run base stations, and unless the base station moves, your boundaries don't shift.
So yeah, with your system that you're selling, do you have to have a base station on site?
No, you don't have to have a base station on site. These all run cellular. So single base station is good for about 30 miles.
Okay.
And it's not line of sight because it's a cellular signal. You can run into issues if you do radio RTK, like you can put up a radio antenna and have radio RTK on your course, but radio is line of sight. So trees can interfere, mounds can interfere, buildings can interfere.
Right.
Those are probably good if you're like out west and you can put the antenna up somewhere really high and you don't have a lot of hills and stuff to deal with. But I think those RTK antennas, I think they're like $15,000 or something.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Not cheap. Yeah.
No.
No. Well, tell me about your service truck you got.
Yeah, so I just picked up a 2014 450 service truck with a 4,000-pound crane on it.
Nice.
GPS spares. I've been doing a lot of heavy equipment repair. Somehow I'm getting to be known as like the Takuchi guy.
Okay.
Now every time people have problems with Takuchi, they call me. Did an engine in a PL8R2 for a golf course last year. This year, I was pushing leaves on a mound, and leaves let go off underneath one of the tracks. And then outside in a neighbor's backyard.
No.
So there for like a week and a half before they could pick it with a crane. So they called me in there, and here for so it was fun digging down through because you got to pull the valve covers and a bunch of stuff off just to get the injectors out to free up the engine.
Yeah.
I have another golf course that wants me to split a tractor. And I'm getting the crane because I did a transmission out of a Benford articulated dumper, and the transmission has to come out the top. It's like 100 and some pound transmission. And I'm there with ratchet straps and stuff hooked on the little bar, trying to get this transmission out without dropping it on anything, and trying to get it in and manipulate it and stuff. And I'm beating the heck out of my F-150, like going to courses. My truck just smells like gear oil at this point. So I was like, I should upgrade to a service truck. And superintendent up there was like, dude, you need to get a service truck. I'm like, all right. So I went to buy a service truck, and I'm like, I might as well get one with a crane on it because stories and songs I had of that transmission. I was like, if I'm doing it, I might as well.
Yeah. Right. No, that was awesome.
And I used to do side work for a construction. I used to do a lot of side work for McDonald's, and then the regional guy split off, so I do a lot of work for Tilali Construction.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with them, but they're golf course construction?
Yeah, golf course construction.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of it. I've worked a lot on their track loaders and things like that, so, and I'm a busy person.
Yeah, it sounds like you're very busy.
Yes.
I know. I was there at one point, and not that I've slowed down that much, but I have slowed down some compared.
I like to keep Sundays for the kids.
Oh, well, good. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for
Unless I
sure.
have something emergency or, I got to go out of town or something.
Yeah.
Sunday's the day for the kids.
Awesome. Yeah, don't blink because they grow up, man. I'm telling you, it happens
Yeah.
so quick.
Yeah, and I already feel a little bit bad about how much I have to work and don't get to see them and things like that. But it's, Long Island's expensive.
Yeah.
Long
Yep.
Island's expensive. Daycare is expensive. Wife can't work because we can't afford daycare. So
Yeah.
that leaves it to me. And,
No, it's tough.
and on the bright side, I had actually, before I had the kids, I had formed an LLC because, pre-pandemic, I had formed an LLC because I had gotten interested in doing GPS sprays before I ever met the guys at Above Park Tech. I wanted to give it a go at it. And then the pandemic hit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I sat on the LLC for a few years. And when the kids came out, I'm like, I'm going to dust this thing back off because I need to make some money. So that's why, for a tip, that's why I said, form a company, even if you just sit on it, because at least it's there if you need it.
Well, yeah. Who knows? Yeah, a guy told me one time, so whatever you're planning on doing, get ready to do something different. Because we get pulled in different directions. I mean, you might start your LLC and think you're going to do one thing, and then in a couple of years, you get pulled in a different direction and you're doing this.
Yeah, and I've been here for 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not in any rush to leave or anything, but I also have my personal belief is never get so attached to a place you're not willing to leave.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Because I have seen people stay way too long at a place to their own detriment.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen people get so attached to places that when they do finally let go or have to leave or something else, it basically shatters them.
Yeah.
I have seen that where people get, I like this place. I'm happy here. I'm not in a rush to leave. I want to do the best job I can for this place.
Mm-hmm.
But if the winds shift, they have to shift.
Yeah.
Good. If I thought it was the best thing to do for my family, I would find another place to work in very short order.
Right. Yeah.
You're right.
No, for sure. That's awesome. Yeah, that's good stuff.
And right now my boss is awesome. Lets me do all this stuff. I've got 4 weeks vacation. He doesn't argue with me about going and running and doing this and that. Just, and that was a good that up. He's a great guy.
Yeah. No, it goes a long way, when you're working with somebody that, lets you.
And he's got 5 kids, so he understands.
Right. Yeah. That's good. Well, let's do some rapid fire. We'll put a bow on this thing. What's your favorite movie?
Anything with Godzilla in it. Speaks for that inner 8-year-old. I love big, dumb monster movies.
Okay, cool. What would be your last meal?
Preferably, I died in my sleep, and I don't even know what my last meal was. I'd have to say it's a Pennsylvania Dutch thing. It's chicken pot pie. It's not an actual pie with chicken in it. It's like a really thick soup with square egg noodles. It's actually a mispronounced thing from Pennsylvania Dutch, which is bot pie, Dotboi. Yeah, that's like a comfort food that, your mother would make every,
Yeah. That sounds really
couple
good.
weeks or whatever.
Uh-huh.
It's got chicken, potatoes, carrots, celery, big noodle. It's super thick. I'd have to say that'd probably be the last meal if I had to choose.
Awesome. Ton of calories there, I'm seeing.
Oh.
What are you most proud of besides your family, your twins?
I've done a fair bit of stuff in my life. I've done everything from strongman competitions to ATV riding, hunting. I've built my own gaming computers. I've done a lot of weird stuff. My hobby is float with the wind. So, I'm proud of all the stuff I've accomplished in learning different things. I go home and I look at my apartment and I look at everything in there and I'm proud of myself because I'm able to do that. I'm able to provide enough that my wife can stay home with the kids.
That's awesome, man. That's so.
And I'm proud that my kids can have different things. And, I work a lot. Like right now, my wife's Dominican. Right now, I sent her and the kids to the Dominican Republic for a while in the winter to enjoy the nice weather.
Oh, nice.
So,
Yeah.
So, I'm proud of myself that I can actually be able to do things like for them.
No, that's awesome.
And,
So good, man.
And people should be proud of themselves. And you should recognize the things that you do that you should be proud of.
That's so good. That is really good advice. It is. And I don't think, I know I'm guilty. I get hung up. Oh, you could have done better at this. You could have done better at that. But yeah, just sit back and be proud of yourself.
The reality is any of us that do any kind of fabrication or do any of this stuff, a lot of us are our own biggest critic. You see all the flaws in everything that you do. And in a lot of ways, that's how you get better at it. But, you make mistakes. But at a certain point, you have to realize that your mistakes are so good that people pay you for them. Because you make mistakes until you think is a mistake is good enough for someone to pay you for it, right?
That's a good point, man. That is really good.
And then at that point, you have to look back and you go, yeah, I could have done that better. But you know what? It's actually really good. That should feel good that I accomplished that. That person's paying me for it. He's right. And the other things that I learned too is never talk up your mistakes. Sitting there praising something you did. Like I made a wooden gun case. It's a 45 120 black powder sharp short rifle. And I made a wooden gun case for it. And out of walnut. I'm a woodworker. I've never done this before in my life. Again, before the kids. He's right. And I'm looking at this thing. I'm like, oh, this thing's so bad. And people are like, no, dude, this thing's awesome. This thing's cool. This thing's crazy. I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I should stop telling them how bad it is.
Right. Yep. No, I've been there. Yeah, I could tell you the 100 things that I did incorrectly on this project that most people wouldn't notice a single one. So, yeah, why bother? Right?
Yeah. And as mechanics, we fix everyone else's mistakes and we fix our own.
That's true.
How many mistakes do we make that no one knows about it?
Yep, that's a good point. Very true. Well, thank you so much, David. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no, this has been really good and I've really enjoyed it. Again, thank you for opening up about dealing with depression because I think that can help a lot of people.
One of the best ways to chase it off is to talk about it.
There you go. You got to get it out. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to the Real Turf Techs podcast. I hope you learned something today. Don't forget to subscribe. If you have any topics you would like to discuss or you'd like to be a guest, find us on Twitter at Real Turf Techs. See you, bye.